we're going to cover version 2.5 that was released recently. Among the topics that we will cover are the upgrade steps, which will address the security requirements imposed by Microsoft effective 1st of August. And we'll also touch base on what the new features in 2.5 are. As I mentioned, version 2.5 was released last week. One of the key features that is available as part of version 2.5 was the compliance to the security requirements from Microsoft. Microsoft has made it mandatory for everyone to enable MFA on their partner tenants, and this affected the way Work365 connected to Dynamics 365, and which is why this release had also included this feature as one of the main items. Please note that this is a mandatory update. Everyone must upgrade to 2.5 before 1st of August. And this will be the only supported version of Work365 on or after 1st of August. With that, I'm going to go ahead and go through the upgrade process itself. The upgrade process can be found by clicking on this link, which I think also has been shared in the Yammer group. So I'm going to bring up that site here very quickly. And we'll go through the process, the upgrade process. There is, depending on which version you start with, there is a special note here. And if you have the portal solution for organizations that are currently on version 2.1 or lower and have the portal solution installed, you need to pay attention to this section. And the part is that you have to first uninstall the portal solution, upgrade Work365 to 2.5, and then install the latest version of the portal. If you are on version 2.2 or above, or 2.4, if you already upgraded to 2.4, then this doesn't apply to you. So the condition is if you are on version 2.1 or lower and have the portal solution. So if you don't have the portal solution and you're in 2.1, you don't need to. You can just start with the rest of the process. This diagram actually gives you an overview of the process itself. Now, if you are on these boxes that are in the gray dotted lines, actually talk about those steps that I just mentioned. If you are in 2.1 and have the portal installed, only then these apply to you. So if you have the portal and are in 2.1, you uninstall the portal solution. You have to enable the MFA policies. Then you go ahead and install the Work365 main solution. You complete registration process. You complete the consent process, reconsent each partner center if you're a direct partner. And then if you started off on version 2.1 and had the latest portal and had a portal solution and you uninstalled it, you can install the latest portal solution now, at which point your 2.5 upgrade is complete. Some things to note: 2.5 changes the way connections are established, which means that between the time you enable MFA, your current environment will stop working, which means that you have to enable MFA and install Work365, right next to each other, but also make sure that no new activity going on. So if you're in 2.5 and someone tries to, let's say, provision a changelog license at that point in time and you've enabled MFA, that changelog may fail. So what we are suggesting is schedule a downtime window where no new activity is being performed on Work365 while the upgrade is going on. So this is one of those things because it fundamentally changes the way connections are established with Dynamics CRM. So that's one part. There are certain prerequisites. We have to enable, prepare for enablement of MFA on the tenant. Enabling MFA is going to impact your tenants in different ways. Please read the FAQs and I'll point out where the FAQs are. There are multiple different ways to enable that. You have to choose what is right, what is the best option for your organization, and then go ahead and enable that. And again, we can talk a little bit about that and I'll point where the FAQs are. Prerequisites for 2.5 upgrade. This is a little bit different from what we've been suggesting so far. So if you've upgraded or installed Work365 before, this is a little bit different because of the nature of the tasks that have to be performed. First of all, you have to install the solution as a user with global admin rights, and this user should also be a system administrator in Dynamics 365. So this is very important. The second thing is this: the user that you're installing with should have a Dynamics 365 license assigned, a customer engagement license or a Dynamics 365 for sales license. This license can be removed after the install. So if you don't have one permanently assigned, you can assign it temporarily just for the install process, and then after that you can remove the license. We now have a Workspace service role. So you can, and the recommended approach is there is a new role called Workspace service. Earlier on, the recommendation was the Workspace service account required should have been a system administrator in Dynamics 365. That's no longer required. You can give the role, the Workspace service role, and move forward with that. So the Workspace service account should have this role assigned. And then, like I said, ensure that there are no pending Workspace jobs. So if you've scheduled a downtime window, make sure that there are no pending jobs under Works 365 when you do this. So far, any questions so far? Okay, I'll move on. Regarding the MFA policies, like I said, there are two links here that links back to the Microsoft requirements. Please review these requirements. There's an FAQ as well for partners that need to do this. What these requirements unambiguously say is that all users, including service accounts, must have an MFA enabled. So again, depending on whether you have EMS or Azure Active Directory plans, or if you don't have, there are different ways to enable. Please read these article and make sure that you enable these before the deadline. Now, before you actually start installing Works 365, you need to make sure that the Workspace service account MFA has been enabled and enforced, and you've registered for the MFA tokens. So you can do that by going to the site aka.ms/MFA setup, and there are instructions on screen. You follow that and you can register. Similarly, do this for the account on which the global administrator that you're going to be carrying out this installation with. Make sure that you carry this out with this account as well. The installation of Works 365. Once you've got all these prerequisites, you can go ahead and install Works 365. The import process is very similar. You go to Settings and Solution, click on the Import button, and import the latest version of the Works 365 solution file. Now, you can get the latest version by going to the Works 365 Help and About page, and you should see a link over there to download the latest version. Irrespective of which version you're in right now, all of them will point to the latest version that is 2.5. So you can just go to your Help and About page and download the solution from there. Once you've got that, you import the solution file. The only difference is that we were doing from before is once you've upgraded the solution, you would click the upgrade button. In this case, we're not going to click the upgrade button. So after the solution gets installed, we have to, if you are installing it for the first time, you might have a registration process. But if you're upgrading it, then you won't see the screen. You can just click the Get Consent button. Once you click the Get Consent button, and remember you're doing this with the global administrator account, who's also a Dynamics CRM administrator. At this point, you're presented with a login prompt, and once you sign in, you may be prompted for MFA challenge as well. Once you've done that, you're going to get this permission requested, which is which is not new, which has been there from before. But at this point, because we've enabled MFA for the organization, we need to go through this reconsent process. Once you've done that, if you are installing Workspace for the first time, you will be prompted for this screen. But if you're upgrading, this will not show up. So just to keep that in mind. And this is just to get some more additional information. For people that have installed Works 365 earlier, would have noticed that they would see a username and password on the screen, which doesn't show up anymore. So to that effect, we do not store passwords or credentials in Works 365 for your Dynamics connection anymore. This is part of the security requirements that were imposed. So just to keep that in mind. At this point, once you click submit, you will get a link. And this link, you can click on the link icon to copy the link to the clipboard. The next steps that you need to do have to be done using an in private window. At this point, you will log in with the service account. You'll paste this thing into a browser, preferably in incognito mode, and then sign in with the Workspace service account, the account with which you're going to connect to Dynamics 365. You will get prompted if you've enabled MFA. You will get prompted for MFA. Enter the challenge. And then once all that is completed, you will get the upgrade button, and then you can go ahead and click the upgrade button. And once you see this successful screen, your upgrade was completed successfully. So at this point, if I go back to the diagram at the top, we've completed all the steps until here, until this box. Now for direct partners, you can go ahead and do reconsent for each partner center. That is, the process is the same as we followed since 2.1, version 2.1. So go to the partner center, click on the generate consent link, and then you will get a pop-up, which is you got to copy the link and again paste it into a new incognito window. Any questions so far? Okay. So the integration account, we use the concept of two different accounts. There's a service account which connects Work 365 to Dynamics CRM, and an integration account which connects Work 365 to Partner Center. Generally, the recommendation is we want to keep these accounts different. The Work 365 account, the service account requires a Dynamics 365 license, but the integration account doesn't require a license. So when you do the consent process for each partner center, you're going to do the consent process for the partner center with the integration account. But you're going to do the consent process for Dynamics CRM, the first one that we've talked about right now while installing this, with the CRM service account. Is that clear? Does that answer your question? Okay. Now, for people that have more, for partners that have more than one partner center, you'll have to repeat the process for each partner center using its own individual integration account. So just keep that in mind. So it's not just one part. If you have more than one partner center, the partner center consent process has to be repeated for each partner center with its respective integration account. So once you've done this, your upgrade to 2.5 has been completed.